Hi, Clyde Salumush here. This video that you're going to be watching is the third out of the 4 videos that AMA is publishing in relation to the community forum that took place about 2 weeks ago and that dealt with youth issues within African Australian communities. Initially we said we we're going to be publishing 3 videos, but we've realized that we have a little bit more material and we want to really be able to put this material out there so that the wider community can really become more familiar with the issues affecting our youth. And when that comes from the community, it really has a lot of value because a lot of the people that talked really were talking from experience and they know what they are talking about. So I'll let you watch the video, which continues the discussions on some of the things that need to be looked at in trying to address the issues with the African youth. We also talked about sport and music being, two of many avenues that can be pursued to try to engage the youth, especially those who tend to have difficulties succeeding in other areas such as schooling and things of that kind. And the 4th video will discuss the recommendations that the attendees at the forum canvassed, and maybe that should be used to look at how the youth can be assisted. So I will let you watch the video and I hope you enjoy it. It's going to be taking about 30 minutes. We know we tend to limit our videos in about 10-15 minutes, but with forums, unfortunately, we have to provide a bit more material than that, and we hope that you'll be okay with that. So I'll see you on the other side of the video.
You know, he is right. We do need to open more platforms to celebrate the good things that are happening, because there's a lot of good stuff that are happening with different kind of communities. And also, I'm going to add up to what Akej said, we also need to bring leaders from different communities who are in the mainstream system back to the community and who understand those two worlds, to come back to the community and open platforms to different projects of all different ways of celebrating our success stories. So maybe hopefully that one day can overpower the negativities that's going around. I don't know. Why are the Australian companies fearful of hiring African, or even the government itself, to give them experience? One of the things they were actually telling is a perception that they don't actually know the work ethics of African, or the experience or qualification. And one lady said that this can actually work, but it just needs people to follow it up. It's like, for example, I think in one of the budget there was a lot of fund actually allocated to Aboriginal, which are actually disadvantaged, to encourage companies to hire them. It's like, this is another one thing we can do for African to break that barrier. And then another one example that I came across recently is with the National Australian Bank. Some of you might heard it, and I went to their information station recently, which is a great program. But what I want to encourage African to do themselves is to fight for this opportunity, not expecting other people to do it for them. Mm-hmm.
The thing is, with African, you often feel like we are victims. Often translate on almost every forum I go to, everybody would think that they're a victim. But at the end of the day, you can get discriminated. Regardless of where you go, you're always going to get discriminated. But it's how you take it is going to matter. And if you graduate from a university with a degree, you're not going to get to point B straight away. There's always a detour. If you can't get that job, it doesn't mean that that's the end of the world. You know, if you're going to be in business and if you get a job different place, there's other ways you can actually go to different routes to get to where you want to be. But we often sit back and say, I did not get a job, I'm just going to sit at home and blame the Australian community. How are you finding jobs? Are you getting out there? Are you putting yourself out there? No. And I have other people that I know very close to me often think that jobs are going to be handed to them after getting that certificate. But no. There's many ways you could do it. Volunteer, I don't know. So many options out there, but as Africans, we like to think we are victims and we're going to sit in our 4 corners and do that. Yeah.
Just to pick up on a point there, with regards to fighting for opportunities or fighting for your right, fighting for things to be changed. We have the example of
Daniel, who's here and who's sort of fought discrimination with the help of the Kensington and Flemington Community Center. Do we see legal avenues, because his case is going to court against Victoria Police on claims of discrimination? Do we see this as something that should be encouraged for more Africans to take Victoria Police to court? I would like to have people's opinion on this.
I think it's important that as African Australians, we feel like we're on the same page. People who have an inferiority complex and play the victim role. So when something bad happens to them, it then continues the spiral of, oh, I got discriminated against. But you actually live in a country where if something wrong happens to you or it's unjust, you can take it to the cops. And even if it's a case against the cops, you have to fight because it's equal. We all come from different countries. We may have had different governing systems. There were no governing systems at all. And I think it's a big deal for African Australians to really get educated in the social lingo, get educated in just how people carry themselves. Because like we definitely do have the right, and it's good that people are stepping up and taking the police to court. Like personally, I would say before I got my first job, actually, I had applied about 1,000 times, all rejected. And I almost got really very discouraged about that. But what I also know is that we have this idea that education will solve our problems. You can get the best education in the world. I had an American education, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to get a job. People are going to say, oh, yeah, he is done. But there's other things that we have to look at. One of them is that education is not all. When you go to school, you're not just going to go to get an education. Try to reach out, meet friends, make friends with these people, because everybody that you go to school with are going to be out there. They're going to be the same people who are managing companies, who are working with organizations, so they will know you. And if when you make friends with them, they understand you, and they may actually call you and say, hey, are you looking for a job? And then on the legal side, we are very shy. We are low shy, yeah, like shy, really. When anything comes to things like going to court and whatever, most of us are very shy about it. Mm-hmm. But I think we should always try. We should always try to fail. A lot of times, when it comes to that point and say go to court, we step back and say, oh, court. But I would encourage the people come forward, people speak up, people find all kind of ways. There are like community legal centers around Melbourne. Go to them, talk to them, and say, I have this issue. I want to know how I can actually get out of, and how we can resolve this. Especially when it comes to institutional racism, we have to use the legal avenues to change the policies, to change the way people do things.
Hi, we are very pleased to know that for several months we've continued to have about 5,000 views of our videos on the internet and about 1,500 monthly visits on our website. This tells us that the job that we're doing is well received, and many of you continue to watch our videos. We really appreciate.
I just wanted to comment on what an incredible thing it is for you and of course for the other young men to have done that and actually set a precedent, so that, because it must have been terrifying to do that, to bring a case against the law itself, the people who are meant to represent the law itself, and not knowing whether or not it would actually get shut down, like what the response would be, and to have had this incredible achievement where the media have really paid attention to this case. Now other men, and I've heard so many cases from like the guys that I work with, of them feeling like they've been discriminated against unfairly, like attacked by the police even, in quite horrific incidents. To know now that they can see you guys as an example and know that there's a possibility that they'll be taken seriously if they raise that with the court is an incredibly powerful thing. So yeah.
We send, I don't know, because we just have to actually continue. We want to go all the way to court because it will rise all these voices that are actually dead. Like I said, they've been buried. So we actually come, don't be afraid as young black men, because we have to actually stand up for this. Yeah.
Talking about taking the law to court, like the police, I think we need to go back to our family values as Africans. We need to instill those values in ourselves, because we will not be in trouble with the law, even if, let's assuming you didn't do anything right here. Like the story he just gave, you know, when we behave ourselves, we won't have any need, or the police may not have any need to come against us. But there will be those situations where you might just have those who don't understand, like some of the cops who don't understand. But I've lived in this country for 8 years. Truly, I've never been in trouble with any police. So it depends on where you hang out, what you do. Because sometimes you see young African men just standing around doing nothing. Sometimes some of them just, you know, maybe fighting. When we behave that way, definitely the cops are going to come around, and they're going to treat you the way you don't want to be treated. We need to behave ourselves too.
I think there are some cases need to be think by individually. What sort of cases you are dealing with? Mm-hmm. You know, discrimination is really very high. So you have to see some cases, just ignore them and observe them. Like swallow them and do like what Buddhists do, meditate about them and let it go. There are some cases really you don't really to worry about. Let them do whatever they want to do.
What are some of the things we should do, or we should ensure happen to increase the chances of employment? Because employment is not something that is going to be given like, you know, you get given, actually you get nothing for free anyway. But, you know, how do we address the employment issue within the African community and the youth specifically? Yes, Mohammed.
Definitely. I've been taking notes, so I'm just going to read from the notes I've taken. I stated that more open dialogue between service providers, parents, young people on the basis of support within home and outside home. I also stated something about early intervention. So obviously education and employment goes hand to hand, and therefore early intervention should be provided for people with English as a second language if they have signs to be struggling with education and employment. Organizations should just stop saying, well, we're going to make you a resume and work on your appearance and you go out and get a job. It takes more than that to get a job. It's not only about education as well. I feel that people really need to support it to find out what they like and what they're really good at, and from then on, use their strength to assist them to the next stage of their life. Thank you.
We are very ambitious. I know Africans are very ambitious. Like, if you apply for a top job and you don't get it, calm down, look for something else. Even if, even if it means volunteering for free. And I think that worked for me. Volunteering worked for me because I got experience and I get to know people from there, and then later they referred jobs to me, and then afterwards I got a job. And I think that's something some of us might want to explore. We should be able to network among ourselves. What I have known is that, you know, we Africans, we come from so many countries, and even within those countries we have a lot of diversity. In most cases, we assume that because we come from Africa, you know everybody. We don't. So we need to start knowing each other. We need to begin networking among ourselves, pass information among ourselves, and say, oh, there's a job in my workplace. What do you think about that? Or then you can even give people mentoring. Mm-hmm. There's mentoring that is going on. It's good and well, but there's also another way of, there's something missing in the mentoring programs that I see, because there's no, the mentoring is always in the Australian perspective. It's like, I am Australian, I'm going to tell you how to get a job. It doesn't work for us like that. That input is good, but we also need look at your friends and family and relatives who are already working. Ask them for advice, because they have a different experience from from people from mainstream Australian society.
Okay. We have to come out of our shell maybe and talk about something we might not like here. But as Africans, or as, you know, I've seen that before you're talking about discrimination, but it's not about discrimination that we have in ourselves, but we always like to shine. But when we shine, we like to shine by ourselves, not let our brothers or sisters or friends or cousins shine with us. So when you get a job in a position, and there's a similar one, and you know that that person has the same expertise or he has the criteria, you would not tell them about the job. You wouldn't.
And why is that?
Because you wouldn't want them to be with you. You wouldn't want them to shine like you. And I've seen that a lot, and it happens, and it's continuing. That's why we're not growing in Australia as a community. We're not growing, and we will not grow until that is challenged. And it's not challenged at all.
Thank you. And the next one is about ignorance and perception. A lot of people have said here that in the wider Australian community, a lot of people know very little about Africans. They see Africans through the prism of a whole lot of things that are not right. They've consumed, so to speak, a lot of media products from the very beginning. It's true that most Australians, they watch TV, and the only thing they see about Africa is either the negatives or the disasters and all that sort of thing. So when you grow up in that sort of environment, you see very little positive image of a type of people, and then it ultimately works through your mind. But how do we go about trying to change the perceptions out there? I know it's a very difficult job, it's not easy, but what are some of the things we should do to educate, if we can use that word, educate the wider society to have a better understanding about Africans and behave accordingly?
I think that there needs to be more platforms like AMA or Africans stepping up to SBS, Channel 34, all these things where we have 2 hours or 6 hours a week where we are we're letting people into our houses. Because there's a certain point when I was in Zimbabwe, and we were all Zimbabweans, black or white, but as a child, you'd have a curiosity of what do white people eat for dinner? You know? What do Indian people wear, like, on the weekend? Like, and it's like breaking those barriers and saying, we're all human, let's celebrate each other's cultures. And I think we need more forums like this. We need more networking things, because when I do business with Australians, it's organized. I know that we're going to have a meeting and it's going to be a wealth building meeting. You buy your ticket in advance. It's 2 tickets for $79. You get a discount. You go in and you meet people for 3 hours. You talk and talk. And you'd have people like politicians and footy players that go and share and they mentor. And we don't have any of those things set up between the African Australian community and between the between the African community in itself. So more mixes, more minglers.
I'm going to ask a provocative question. Is there a degree of laziness within the African community? Because for everything, you got to fight. You got to go out there. And looks like there's some degree of laziness somewhere. But anyway.
My idea, my name is Daniel.
Yes.
To break the barriers, and when you say ignorance, first of all, we African, are we united to show our rich culture? Are we understand each other? Education, when you say education regarding discrimination and other stuff, we have to teach, and all the youngs and even the kids, they should have a confidence in justice system. We shouldn't mix the organization or like police, whatever. We shouldn't mix with the justice system in Australia. That we have to have really confidence. If we bring it to the justice, we'll have a solution. That we can prove with our brother Daniel.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The girl at the back.
I just want to answer your question about the laziness. I don't think there's laziness. I think there is a lack of motivation among the young people. I think because we carry so much grief and so much trauma, whether it's experienced or whether it's our past or whether we're carrying that through our parents, it depends. I think we've also got a lot of internal challenges that we're dealing with that are not solved, and when we're really challenged in a way that's, I don't know, that's discrimination or something, it kind of like demotivates us to get out there and do the best that we can do. We Africans need to come together and really unite, and so it really also like just not only, it's not unite against something, it's get to know each other and you know, discuss how one did it, a lot of success stories, how they did it, and what you can do best. And also reflect on yourself, like there's a job that was rejected. what did I do? You know, ask them. You can ask them. So what did I do? What could I have done differently? How can I do that differently next time? So instead of saying they were racist, you know. So,
all right. Well, when I asked the question if there's a degree of laziness, I'm kind of coming from my experience as a former community leader. For instance, in my Congolese community, a lot of times, for instance, we would talk about things that we want to do, and people would give brilliant ideas about some of the things we do, but when it comes to actually doing those things, you know, almost everyone is no longer there.
You're quite right. You know, a lot of the time we have these discussions. These ABCDs are the issues, and ABCD needs to be done. And, but then nobody shows up. You're very right. But I think personally, I got into a stage because I've been into so many workshops, so many forums. I'm so sick of it. It's not even funny. I'm in a stage where I'm just like, all right, this stuff exists. What are we going to do about it? Who is keen to do it? It's not everybody's cup of tea, you know, and everybody needs to chase after what their cup of tea is. For those people who want to do A, let's do A, and the rest can do B and C.
There's two sides to the perception of ignorance. It's about what the wider community thinks of Africans, but it's also how Africans themselves adapt to the system, because that's a job that we got to do. The whole of Australia is not going to change just for Africans. Us Africans have to adapt to the society. Are we doing enough in that perspective? Daniel, I see you smiling a little bit. You want to say something?
I think from my experience of, you know, what I've been doing and what my friends have been doing, in some ways we've been bending over backwards by, you know, I'm trying to complete an engineering degree, and at the same time I'm doing theater and running a radio program to counteract the ignorance that exists in society. So for me, I feel like, you know, I'm doing more than what I should be doing. Ideally, in an ideal world, you know, you just follow your passion, what you want to do. Just do that. Don't worry about the rest of society. But it's hard to do that when you've had certain experiences, and you've seen how that's affected your friends and your community. It's very difficult to leave them behind. And so, for my generation, I feel like, you know, we're the first generation of African Australians, and it is our duty and it is our burden to educate the rest of community and also to help ourselves.
But I have realized when I was in America, just like Australia here, Australia is a very good country with a lot of resources. Is how you actually have to try. That is what we are still struggling to achieve. Yeah, because Australia is not communal society. This is like an individualistic society. Mm-hmm. You have to try something by yourself, you know, and you be successful, you know. And that's what we all, as Africans, also need also to put in our mind. The system here runs on like that. Try something. Although you fail, try it again. If you fail in this area, move to other area and go and try there. Probably you'll be successful in one thing.
Okay. I think we, as African, we try to adapt and come to the level of the actual technology or system or Australian system. But there is like that preconception before coming here, and from the media, the international media, they always give some bad side of African people. But the African that are here in Australia, the fact that we here, our presence here, it's already a very good point to the adaptation. So what we have to kill and try to stop in African thinking or mentality is to think that we are not able to do the best. We are not able to do something good to the community. We are not able to give something that can promote life here in Australia or in terms of technology. No, we are able to do that. For instance, he caught something. He is doing engineering. I myself am completing a bachelor degree at one of the universities here. When I try to compare myself to some other student, even Australian, even from Europe, I'm not beyond the schedule. Sometimes I'm even among the 5 good students in the class. So it shows that we try to do all our best to adapt ourselves, but there is that preconception that Africa is always beyond, we don't know. Sometimes we are facing the problem of the language, and we are ashamed to show what we are capable to do. And that we have to kill and stop in African mentalities, but it doesn't help us to go further. We are stopping and we come back beyond the schedule. So in terms of adaptation, I think we try to do something, but we still have to do a bit more and show that African can also do something good.
Thank you. That brings me to talk about sport and music, for instance, as two avenues that Africans have a lot of talents in that can be used for some within the African community to achieve excellence and you know, do even more. Do you think that there's enough being invested in sport to help Africans to move forward?
In Australia, you see like young kids are directed according to where they have their talents. Like if a kid is good at music, playing piano, they're sent to the right school for that. Yes. As Africans, when we come here, I don't think we have that because our parents always drive us towards, okay, what's going to give us, they think, going to lead us to the best part in our life. Oh, you have to study engineering, doctor, this, that.
Lawyer.
You know. But when we get here, and I'm not pretty sure about this because there are those who scout for talents, like in the sporting industry. I'm not sure how much of those, when they see Africans playing, maybe a game somewhere, I don't know how many of those come around. You know, because if there's a footy game somewhere, you will see those people around there scouting for talent. Because there are a lot of people, Africans with lots of talents in terms of sports and music. And same goes with the music industry. We don't have that exposure as to, okay, we can pick you up from here and build you, just like it's done in America. You know, so that is not there. So I think with the Australian society, there's more that needs to be done. We have the talent. We just also need to know where to go.
There are a lot of talents among African people, young kids, very talented, but due discrimination, institutional discrimination at schools, those kids, because they are poor, they are on low income, they are not being selected.
Okay.
And this has happened to me.
In terms of sport, we are very ambitious. We like education and office work, but we need to begin looking at sport as a career. Usually, like where I come from, sport is entertainment, but in these countries, it's not just entertainment, it's career, it's livelihood. So we need to invest in that. We send our kids to school. If in the school that program is not there, and you have a little bit of money, send that kid to do some extra things. That like it could be sports, it could be music. So please, let's take these two things very, very seriously. Thank you.
So I think leaders really need to first unite and discuss about how they can have a platform which would address the needs of the African community rather than Nigeria or Sudan or Somalia or things like that.
The parents have a huge role to play on it because I believe sports and music can be a great discipline for kids. To have something to look forward to for the weekend is enough for kids to concentrate on school and do better things in life. Because in my community, where I came from, Melbourne, a lot of kids spend a whole day outside on a weekend. What are they doing? They're just playing on the street. They don't have anything to look forward to. And I think sports and music is a great thing. We, African community, need to put ourselves there and encourage parents to let their kids out, drive them, and take time to actually get your kids out of the house on the weekend and have something to look forward to every week. So yeah.
Does anyone know of any successful program, either in music or sport, that they can point to? I know, for instance, in sport, there's Ahmedini who does the soccer thing with young kids in the Flemington area, I suppose. Any other program that you guys can point to that trying to harness the talents of the community?
Maribyrnong City Council have been very supportive of us, and they've let us have this space without charging us the higher fee. And so when I came in to talk to the community programs person, she told me that they have a hip-hop group here, So that's one good program, and I think they've got a few others. And so I guess that certainly focusing on local councils, I know that they have programs.